Today's relationship reboot came from a conversation one of our gurus had with a viewer.
The viewer said the world seems a little scarier now than when she was growing up. She worries about protecting her kids from everything they encounter. So today we're talking about family stories and how history can help teach your kids to be a little more resilient, get through those tough challenges. Our relationship guru, Dr. Carol Bearse, joins us now. Dr. Bearse, nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, these coping skills that we think about, family stories often isn't kind of what goes together with that.
I know. When we think about resilience, we think about, okay, let's teach our kids how to be bigger, better, stronger, wiser in all these ways. But some research suggests that if our kids know more about our family's history, they tend to do better in the big stressors of life, like even losing a loved one to cancer, and the little ups and downs, you know, like getting a bad grade on a test or dealing with a school bully.
So how does it actually work in that way, though? Because, I mean, it's good to know about your family history. I don't think anyone would, argue that. But what is it that makes people more resilient?
Isn't it interesting? So Emory University researchers developed this 20-item scale called the Do You Know scale. And it's some really basic information on here. Things like, do you know where your parents went to high school? Do you know the kinds of jobs your parents had? And it doesn't have to be just your biological parents, so adoptive kids as well. And here's what's going on. Kids who had a higher score on this 20-item test tended to have higher self-esteem, feel more in control of their lives. And you know what we think is going on is that those kids feel like they're not alone. It's called like your kids having an intergenerational self. So they feel like when they face stuff, they're not in this life alone.
They're part of this bigger thing.
They're part of something bigger than themselves.
Interesting.
And so it's not really about like, okay, know these 20 items, know these facts.
And are these like war stories, like Grandpa was in World War II and that kind of stuff?
Those are great too.
Yeah, we love those.
It's not just about knowing the facts. Otherwise, let's just give our kids, a quiz.
Right.
But it's about the process by which kids learn this material.
Okay, so you have 2 easy tips for parents.
2 easy tips.
Or any adult in the family.
Any adult. It could be grandparents.
Uncle, grandparents. Okay, so what are your tips?
So the first one is that try to tell your kids one story per week. A lot of times we wait until the holidays to tell the stories, but like even if you're driving your kids to school, it's a rainy day, be like, hey, gosh, this weather reminds me of the day you were born. Tell them these stories, because tip number 2 is that kids who do better feel bonded with their families. And the only way that we can create really strong bonds in our families is to talk a lot.
Now, my kids, of course, 11 and 9, and they complain that they've heard these stories 1,000. Kylie can attest that
Jason,
these stories are really good. So sometimes they get told multiple times.
And it's so important that we tell them multiple times.
Every time we drive by the basilica, that's where your mom and I got married. Yes, we know.
Well, and here's the thing. Your kids can roll their eyes. They might say, oh, God, I got to hear the story of when mom and dad or whatever, when you met. But we know that deep down they're listening, and it's important because they are going to feel like they know this, even if they never say it out loud, and it's going to resonate with them.
And I feel like too, when you have those kind of stories, they almost become stories themselves, like, oh, that, dad tells this story over and over again. And I think too, something that I did recently was really sit down and talk to my grandparents about how they had met, because I didn't know. I had no idea, so I couldn't believe how much I didn't know. And I thought, like, what if I had never thought to ask?
Exactly. I mean, so as we get older, we tend to cherish these kinds of stories. For the kids, though, we just need to keep doling them out.
Keep doing it.
Yeah. Keep doling, because they're likely not going to ask.
That gives them strength. Very, very interesting.
That gives them significant resilience. Yeah. And our kids need to be resilient. Resilient kids grow into resilient adults, and people who are resilient do better in life.
This is kind of the pushback where people say, like, we're raising a generation of snowflakes that can't handle anything.
Right.
But this could be one way to try to make sure your kids
really
cool. Bounce back.
Yeah, do it in the little moments.
All right, so keep telling all of your stories. I like it.
Keep going, keep going.
Sorry, guys. Thanks, Carol.